On this episode, we finally address my obsession with design. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of the vlog. All right, so it is May 1st already, and I can't believe how quickly the beginning of this year has already gone. But I'll tell you, recently I have been really immersed in the work, and there is no better place for me than to be focusing on delivering value to my clients. And recently that's been by way of challenging my clients to think differently about the way that we package learning experiences, engaging people in the strategic process in new ways, and as you saw a couple weeks ago in my collaboration with Kathy Ock from Learning Paradigms, starting to think about the way that we ourselves show up in the workplace and how that might affect our personal and career growth. And so these are areas that I'm just super excited to start to see expand, not only by way of client delivery, but also by way of every week being inspired to offer a new perspective to you all on an episode by episode basis. I also had the great opportunity last weekend to spend a couple days in Richmond, Virginia, where we were able to see what really is the first extension of the Chicago beefsteak experience. And if you don't know what a beefsteak is, you can check out episode 3 of this vlog. I'll put a link to that episode down here. And that it truly is what it is. It is an experience unlike any other. You know, as I talk about experience design, I continue to default to this wonderful event that we've put together that people are now starting to take and start to tweak and design to their liking. And we're starting to see some really good success with the beefsteak. So super exciting, super fun, and great to see Jamie and Neil really succeed down in Richmond, Virginia. All right, so let's dive in. I wanted to do a little bit more of a tactical episode today on the concept of design. Let's start with the real definition of design, and I'm gonna read it off here, literally straight from Webster's. Design is purpose, planning, or intention that exists or is thought to exist behind an action, fact, or material object. That is the most general definition of design. Purpose, planning, or intention. When it comes to design in the learning space, the definition reads a planned sequence of learning experiences. When you apply design to the L&D space, it's really becomes more of a methodology in terms of the way that we approach developing a program or a workshop or an experience or a module. So I was first exposed to the concept of design through really physical objects, things that you could make or things that you could produce. These were, like the early stories of Steve Jobs completely redesigning one of the first Apple computer models because there were screws inside that nobody could see that needed a special powder coating in his opinion. This made design real to me. It made it tangible. But I'm learning more and more that design is essentially the foundation of everything. A perfect example of this is in communications or the way that we communicate. You could have the perfect product or the perfect service, but if you're not able to reflect the value of that product or service, if you're not able to articulate the essence and what makes it great, you've got absolutely nothing. And that really starts with understanding the end goal in mind and working backwards, and that's really the basis of design. So, that's what really gets me excited about the concept of design, is that it's so overarching, it's so fundamental. So I'd really challenge you guys, before you take a class in design or get a formal certification, whether that's in curriculum design or designing experiences or communications or physical objects, read a little bit about it, learn enough to be able to start to see design in everything around you, and you'll start to expand your thinking. You'll start to bring in new ideas in terms of what design means to not only the way we produce things, but the way that we put them out in the world. That's super exciting to me. There's very few things in life that end up being the foundation of everything. Design is one of them. Passion is another, but that's a whole nother episode. All right, so now that we've covered the broad definition of design and we've talked about how that might be even more refined in the learning and development space, I wanted to go even deeper and talk about design's role in the L&D space. Clearly design has a role, and historically it's been acknowledged in L&D by way of curriculum design. And that's essentially, as I mentioned before, the sequence of learning experiences that make up your program. I like to think of design as an overarching approach to the way that we create learning experiences and the way that we engage our employees. And so there's really three things that I want to talk about that kind of make up my design philosophy anytime that I'm building a new program or I'm really working with a client to make the learning experience great. And the first and foremost is the acknowledgement that learning is a progression. And this really goes back to this great definition of curriculum design. It is a planned sequence of learning experiences. I really encourage my clients and folks in the industry to think about the program from start to finish at the very beginning of the design process. Really understanding learning as a progression starts with defining the learning experience for your organization. That will help you essentially map all of these experiences and this sequence to your ultimate goal, making sure that each one is connected and each one ties to the definition of learning for you and your organization. Secondly, the design process in learning and development is really rooted in identifying the gaps or the objectives and closing the gaps. Some of the hardest work in designing learning experiences or curriculum design is leading with understanding the gap, defining the objectives, and then making sure that all of your actions are mapping back against that. It's the most important work. It's also the work that will most easily translate to your stakeholders in terms of the impact of what you're developing and the programs that you're deploying to your employees. Thirdly, and this may be a little bit more of a personal belief of mine, but I really encourage people to stay away from the overuse of buzzwords when it comes to design. Gamification, engagement, social, these are three examples of words that are, yes, very relevant and aspects of the design process that are very relevant, but they are so overused. The buzzwords are great, but learn how to use them in support of a really well thought out curriculum design plan, because that's really what's going to win in the end, is being able to prove results. I'll tell you, I am super excited that design has made its way into our everyday vernacular. And not just from an L&D perspective, but on a broader scale, I've now had the opportunity to work with several startup organizations that were really founded on this concept of using design principles to solve very specific problems. And oftentimes that means a real intense focus on the end user experience. Two resources that I would love to point people towards, and they're definitely not the holy grail, but they might be a good start. There's a book by the name of Design a Better Business, and it's from the folks at Wiley Online. It's a great physical book to order on Amazon and just have in the office place, because it's got a great list of short exercises, activities that bring you into the design process and how you might be able to apply it in the workplace. The second resource that I always love to point people towards, especially when they're going down the path of design thinking, is the folks at IDEO, and I'll put the link below. If you haven't learned about the organization IDEO, I just think it's one of the most innovative, fascinating companies out there that are truly leading in terms of the way that we're shaping design principles and we're using design to make better products. IDEO's been around for a while, but they're constantly coming up with new ways that we can learn about design and how important that is. And so IDEOU, or www.ideou.com, is a great place to go for both some free content in terms of different design principles, as well as some official courses and certifications that you can take to become a better design thinker. So a lot more on this concept. As I become more and more of a designer myself, I feel like I've got such a responsibility to continue to learn about this, and hopefully we do that together. Thank you guys.